Hey everybody, welcome back to the Marriage Adventure Podcast. We're your hosts, Daniel and Bonnie, and today we're talking about something that I think a lot of couples probably feel. I know we have, and so it all depends on the season of life you're in and the season of the year. But here's what we're talking about: emotional exhaustion in marriage,
and not just being physically tired, but emotionally drained.
Yeah.
Like you're constantly pouring out energy to your work or kids or schedules, responsibilities, and by the end of the day, there's just not much left for each other.
Yeah, because I mean, really, Bonnie, marriage is really good when you're sitting on the beach in the Bahamas and there's no stress.
It's great.
It's the job and the kids and everything that ruins it, right?
Real life.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons so many marriages slowly just start running on empty. And it's not because couples don't love each other, but just stress is consuming all their emotional energy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that a lot of couples feel guilty when they notice that that there's some kind of distance in their marriage, and they think there's something really, really wrong. But sometimes it's not that something's broken in the marriage, but it's just that they're depleted of energy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so true. It's not that they're not compatible together or anything. It's just that they're drifted and disconnected because they're just simply exhausted and stressed. Yeah. And you really just need a nap. And so
I always need a nap.
I always need a nap or carbs. Nap and carbs, that helps.
Carbs calls the naps.
Little snacky snack.
Yeah.
So we want to unpack that today because I think a lot of couples, you probably need to hear it.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about how stress slowly impacts emotional connection and why couples often feel disconnected and they get in that survival-oriented mode during busy seasons, and then some simple ways to intentionally reconnect before your marriage runs completely empty.
Yeah. Well, see, so speaking of completely empty, when we moved to this farm, gosh, has it been 5 years? 5 years ago now. I wanted to buy an old.
Exactly.
Yep. I wanted to buy an old truck because I've always wanted an old truck and like a classic truck. And it's just not feasible when you're a pastor living in a neighborhood house and you're not a mechanic and you can't put car seats in it. But we moved here and I'm like, yes, this is the time. And so anyway, so I bought my 84 Ford then and F-150 and I love it. But when I bought it, the guy, there had been a little fire underneath the dash and some of the wiring and electronics had burned. And so
not a good indication that it's a healthy vehicle.
Well, it was what we could afford.
Yeah.
And now we fixed those things. But
that's right.
The gas gauge didn't work. And who am I kidding? None of the gauges worked. And so the speedometer didn't work. None of it worked. But if you put gas in it, it would run. So so I just kind of had to guess how much gas in it. And was in it. And I'm not gonna lie, a couple times I had to crawl under it, knock on the gas tank and just hear if it felt like it had gas in it.
Well, and I remember one time I actually had to bring you gas.
That's what I was about to tell.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, there was the story. Never mind. One time Bonnie had to bring me gas. No, I was. I was out. I had to get something, and so you didn't know what story I was telling. No. And so I'm driving back, and I get to this 4-way stop. And luckily it wasn't in like a busy intersection and it just died and it ran out of gas. And so I had to call you and you came with a gas can and, and I had a half a dozen people because we live in the country. Can I help? You need any help? No, I'm just out of gas, which is very humiliating.
I know.
For a guy to say I'm out of gas. Yeah. And I couldn't tell anybody my gas gauge didn't work and it doesn't know. You don't.
What you just say is, no, I broke down. You don't say I'm out of gas.
I know.
You just say I broke
down.
down.
But when Bubba stops and wants to
look
try
under
to
the hood,
fix your truck, you got to tell
true.
him, no, I'm just out of gas.
Good point.
And so I said thank you to Bubba and just,
Yeah.
But that's where a lot of marriages are, is they're just out of gas. And we don't have that gas gauge. We don't have that stress gauge in our marriage. And yes, I did get the gas gauge fixed in the truck, and so I'm always attuned to how much gas I have.
Yes.
But don't you wish we had a gas gauge or a stress gauge, as Bonnie yawns, about how tired we are, right? Or how stressed we are in marriage. And so maybe we'll talk about some of those today.
Yeah.
But let's first get into, Bon, what are some of kind of modern stress loads. Like, what are some stresses you feel?
Oh, goodness. Well, for me, because, well, I have been home with the kids doing homeschool for the last few years. And when it comes down to crunch time at the end of the school year, this year was even more stressful because there were a few things that caused the kids to get behind. And, and so the last couple of weeks trying to catch up, making a schedule to get them both back on and trying to get all that caught up, their stress just compounded on me. And so seeing how stressed they were and trying to figure out ways to take stress off of them, put it all on me. And so that was one thing. Just the kids' workload was a huge stressor for me. So I know work for a lot of people is their stress load. My work is the kids. And so, yeah, when my workload increases there, that's a big stressor for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then sometimes that with the kids comes just all the activities. I know for you, an overloaded schedule equals stress.
It does.
Even if it's not stressful things,
It's
busy.
extra. Too busy for me. My calendar, I start shutting down when my calendar's overly full. That usually makes me stress. Finances are a big stressor. That's a big thing.
And then you throw in that with a lot of aging parents, right?
Yeah.
So they say that you raise two sets of kids. You raise your kids, ready to launch them, and then you bring back in your parents, later in life, and you're concerned about them, and that brings a lot of stress and worry and anxieties and stuff like that. And then you're gonna say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know for me, another stressor and this is one of the things I think a lot of people deal with, is just extra, like noise, constant noise. Meaning, well, for one, I like a nice peaceful home. But anyway, I can't stand for the TV.
That's the next podcast. That's next week.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll look at that. Well, I can't stand for the TV to be on all the time, and just the constant, it was even one day last week I looked around, and we even had another kid over here too, and I looked around, and every one of us were on the device.
I did. I looked at the same.
All five
of us. Same exact time. I looked around. I don't think I saw you looking, so we looked at like different minutes.
Yeah.
But I looked around, and we're all sitting in the den, and we all have our phones in our hands looking at it.
And too much sometimes.
Good family time.
Yeah, when I scroll too much, it really stresses me out. It eventually starts working on my brain.
Yeah.
So that's not enough sleep. There's just a lot of things that can cause stress in marriages, and health issues cause stress. There are a number of things that just are extra on a relationship in the day-to-day. And so, and that to me causes emotional depletion.
And I think that's a really good word. I think there's a big difference. We have to differentiate between emotional depletion and intentional disconnection, because we talk a lot about disconnection. Our latest book was called the Connected Marriage, and so a lot of our ministry is, our mission for our ministry is to help reconnect couples with each other and with the Lord. So connection is a lot of what we're about and what we work with couples on, reconnecting. But there's a big difference between just intentional disconnection and being disconnected because you're just depleted and stressed emotionally and mentally and physically even too, right? And so many times couples just misunderstand exhaustion as a lack of love, right?
It's like, I'm just too tired right now, honestly, to give you what you need.
Yeah.
Or you're too tired to give me what I need in the relationship. It's not that I've intentionally taken a step back from you. It's like, I would love to meet you there, but I'm just too tired.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. I mean, there's some days recently even we get in bed.
Yesterday.
Yeah, but I've gotten in bed at night and looked at you. I'm like, I'm just so tired. I can't keep my eyes open.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I want to talk, but I just can't.
Yeah. And so I think it's good to know that emotional depletion is not a lack of love.
Right.
Do you think that affects marriages from the standpoint of misunderstanding?
Oh yeah, because when I'm exhausted emotionally, and my brain is running on trying to work overtime on a particular thing that I'm consumed with at the time, I drop details, and so I'm not going to communicate with you well, and I'm going to just accidentally forget to tell you something, and I'm not intentionally not telling you, but days later you're like, you didn't tell me that. I was like, oh no, I was so busy. I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to fill you in on this, but this is what happened, and so it's just that constant stuff my brain gets to running, and it's not like I don't want to, invest in us or connect with you, or it's just there's miscommunication because I'm just my brain's somewhere else.
Yeah. So I think that's a good question that listeners, you guys can begin to process is how do you know when stress is beginning to affect your marriage? I know for me, I feel like when I'm stressed or just depleted emotionally. Now, there's a difference between just physical exhaustion. Like yesterday, I was just physically exhausted because, when we serve on the worship team in our church, and so you got to be there really early, and it's a long day, long morning. And you're just, you're standing, you're mentally, you're there. And so when you get home, like, man, Sunday afternoon naps are just the priority. And so that's a different thing.
Yes.
But when you have ongoing stress and pressure from like work, I lose patience, and
kind of that
and I'll get
indicator.
snippy. Yeah, that's the little dashboard light, for me. When
check
that
oil,
light,
check oil.
Yeah. And when your gauges are working in the truck.
You need gas. You need gas.
gas.
Low.
But for me, that's one of them. And I just lose patience. I get snippy.
I'm the same way.
And so I think that's a good thing to understand.
Yep.
So, but what happens is when that goes on for a long time, what begins to happen to the marriage, right? Your spouse gets what?
Just what's left.
Yeah.
If anything, because, and I think we have this tendency to believe, well, they're always going to be there. That's, I can take you for granted sometimes because you've always been here, that you're always going to be here, and that you don't need, you're fine. I'll get to that. And I think there's a tendency in the relationships that are closest to us, we put out the fires elsewhere first, and then if there's anything left, we might, okay, maybe I can give you something now, but you get what's left.
Yeah, there's other, there's the bills that have to be paid today or the electricity to go off, and then there's the investments, the long-term things. It's important, but it's not urgent. And I think sometimes we view our marriage that way. Our marriage is very important, but it can be put off till tomorrow. I don't have to pay that bill today.
Yeah.
They'll, like you just said, they'll be here.
Yeah.
And so our energy goes everywhere else to the things that we think, okay, that's urgent and important. We got to get that done right now, today. And so then what happens is, like you just said, our spouse gets the end of the day version of us.
Wow, that's pretty profound. Yeah. Because you can't live your life in the most important relationship for your entire life always just giving them the end of the day version. Somewhere along the way, you've got to get my best, or you're not going to like me very much. Yeah. If all you're getting is my end of the day me, because I don't have a lot left to give at that point. So, man, that's pretty profound.
We're going to pause and pray for just a moment. I mean, but emotional connection, it requires emotional margin, if it's going to happen. And so now look, we have grace. You have grace in your marriage. You understand this marriage is a partnership. We carry each other's burdens, but there's only so long your spouse can get that end of the day version. You have to come back and prioritize.
Yeah.
Right. Now, obviously, if there's extenuating circumstances and there's a prolonged physical illness,
sure,
yes, obvious that's understandable. But if it's just the day-to-day stresses of life and work, there has to be a point to where there's intentionality that comes back to it. So what we get to is when we just keep putting that off, we go into survival mode.
Well, and I think that's when what you're talking about, those indicators, you start seeing those. In different marriages, it's different things. In different people, it's different things. It's the short temper, or being irritable, or just emotionally withdrawing completely and shutting down. And, like, okay, just getting snippy or not being patient anymore. That's when you start seeing, okay, maybe that's an indicator that we're overly stressed, because we're in survival mode. So this is the version of me you're going to get.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before. It's that lack of curiosity towards each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens, and that's what comes along with, well, they'll always be there.
Yeah.
We just stop being curious about that, about our spouse and about, interest. And so couples stop nurturing the relationship because survival becomes the priority.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so what happens then? I love this illustration. You think about your cell phone. You think about, if you have an iPhone or whatever you have. I know the iPhone does this. I don't know about Android or others. But if you leave it in your car on the dashboard or on the seat, my car has a little phone holder on the dash, and so I keep it up there so I can see, maps and all while I'm driving, and I don't have to look down or over. It's just right there, kind of off to the side of my line of sight. Well, the great thing about that, it's in my line of sight. I can keep it plugged in. The bad thing about that is it's in direct sunlight usually.
Oh,
and it's running, and it's computing and all that, which takes, it creates heat, and then the sunlight. And so sometimes it'll say, it'll go into overheat mode. So what begins to happen to your phone or your computer when it gets overheated? Well, the processing power slows down, and it gets, really slow and really sluggish, and and then eventually it just shuts off.
Yeah.
And it shuts off because that's a protection mode.
Mm-hmm.
So it shuts. It's built in by Steve Jobs, I think, put that in there. I don't know, but Steve put in there, shut down when you get overheated, because we don't want you to damage internal parts.
Right.
And so our bodies and our brains do the same thing. When we have internal mechanisms that when we get stressed, when we get exhausted, that we just begin to shut down, and that can get really dangerous in a marriage relationship.
Oh, yeah.
If that happens.
Yeah.
And so, I remember this past school year you alluded to earlier was really stressful.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're trying to catch the kids back up. And then a few weeks ago, Josie took her last final. And it was Colby's, Colby had finished. And what was that like?
I looked at you, I said, I think I can breathe again. I think, I felt like the weight of the world. I know it wasn't my class, it was hers, but I saw the weight come off her, so it actually came off me.
You never stressed as much in school yourself as you
Oh,
have
yes, I did.
with these kids.
You didn't know me in school.
Okay.
Back in high school. I did. Uh-huh.
I never stressed classes.
No.
It all just came so natural.
Okay.
What I meant to say was it came naturally to me to not stress and worry about class.
Yeah. Well, I would stress over every grade.
You worried about grades, I did.
Yeah, I did. I was a little nerd.
C's get degrees, baby. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. If you're like us and most people, you're always on your phone scrolling reels and stories. Well, instead of just mindlessly doom scrolling, check out our weekly marriage coaching. Every Monday afternoon, we drop a new, short marriage coaching video on YouTube. These concise tips and biblical insights will help you reconnect with Christ and your spouse all week long. Well, if you're loving this podcast, you'll love these bite-sized practical videos. So look up The Marriage Adventure on YouTube and give your marriage 10 minutes this Monday. I guarantee you'll feel the difference. All right, so we're talking about stress and how stress can affect your marriage, prolonged stress. And so here's another thing I think, Bonnie, that's really important is that stress, when we go to those survival modes that we just talked about, and our spouse gets our end of the day version of us, the leftovers, I feel like it changes the way changes the way we interpret each other.
Yep. I think there's a lot of room to misread, because maybe we've withdrawn and was like, I want to invest here. I love you. I want to do something fun with you, but honestly, I can't right now. I'm just too tired. I just don't emotionally. And even I'll say this, back in the spring, I mean, when it was at the height of it, there were a couple of things that you were telling me about going on in the ministry, and I was trying to process it with you, but my brain couldn't hold it. It literally couldn't hold it, and I felt so bad. It was a couple of those pillow talk conversations at night, and I as I was dozing off, I remember thinking, he's going to think I don't care, but I do. I'm just really tired. I just couldn't emotionally process anything else at the time. I don't think we've ever had that conversation, but I did. I felt like, okay, he's going to think I'm not caring about this. I really do, but I just really, right now is not the time to start the conversation because I'm so tired. I couldn't.
I just said that. It was really offensive.
But there is room for misinterpretation of, oh, she's not conversing with me.
Yeah.
She doesn't give a
Flying fart.
Yeah, she really doesn't care. And so,
It's our podcast. We can say whatever we want.
yeah. So, yeah, it's not that I didn't care. I was just so overwhelmed with other things that were already on my own plate, I couldn't engage.
Yeah.
So that leaves room for misinterpretation.
Yeah, and especially, we'll celebrate 30 years at the end of the month.
Yay.
Yay. And of marriage. And so, but I feel like now, this far in, we have a little bit more grace and understanding. Younger in our younger years, earlier in marriage, we just didn't have that wisdom,
Right.
and that life experience, and we hadn't read all the marriage books to be able to know, to have that grace, or be able to determine what is short-term stress and versus just really intentional disconnection, or you're always worried when you're younger in your marriage, and maybe there's just some insecurities there. You're always worried, is it something against me? Did I do something?
Yeah.
Are they mad at me? Are they not, is there
Did I do something
unforgiveness?
wrong?
Yeah, that kind of thing. You're always kind of worried about walking on eggshells. But yeah, you can, and that's another way that you can misinterpret each other, is that really it's not, it's stress of life,
Yeah.
and I think that's where being able to communicate well about the day-to-day stuff can really come in and help in understanding, oh, is this stress, or did I do something, or did my mama do something,
Sure.
or in-law or something, that kind of thing. Are you upset with me about something, or is this just stress?
Yeah.
But it's like we talked about earlier with the shutdown. It impacts the nervous system and just emotional availability, and I think that's where grace and understanding matter.
Yeah.
And that's where, Ecclesiastes tells us, two are better than one. We bear each other's burdens. We carry each other's burdens. When one falls down, we pick them up, right? And so that's grace and understanding in stressful seasons, as I'll fill in the gap for you.
Yeah.
And we've kind of gone through that in the marriage adventure with the ministry is, you've felt called during this season to really invest in the kids and finish these last 3 years with teenage kids well, right? Before they kind of
Launch,
hopefully.
Hopefully.
And
we'll see.
We're not interested in them sticking around to the 30. But to do that, you've had to pull back from the marriage adventure.
In the day-to-day.
In the day-to-day. And which, if you're a podcast listener, then this is like one of the only things you do. So you love our listeners.
Yes, yes, I do.
You're like, I don't want to leave them. And but that is that, understanding of, hey, listen, you get to hear the voice of the Lord too. And if this lightens your load stress-wise to be able to invest more time here, then, I'll have grace and understanding, and you'll come back, and help in other areas, in the next few years.
Well, and that makes a difference. I think one of the things, though, is during stressful seasons, and I think seasons is a huge word to understand, because if I know something is for a season, I can have more grace and understanding.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that will help our listeners is understanding, because you're like, well, I just don't even know how to get through this, get out of this. I think understanding what season you're in.
And being willing, sometimes, I mean, if it's job stress,
Yep.
your job's not going to look at you and say, hey, listen, I know that this is creating stress at home.
No.
I want to take a lot off of you. No. I mean,
No.
even, listen, been in church work for a long time. Even in church work, sad to say, very few bosses are going to come in and say, hey, I know you're stressed. You need to take some time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The good ones will in church work and maybe business, but that's few and far between, And so it's going to be up to you to say, okay, I have to put an end date or to this level of stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be work stress, but I have to clear some things off my schedule, off my calendar.
Mm-hmm.
There might be some hobbies that I can't be as involved in during this season to create more margin for my marriage and my family.
Yeah.
Because work is more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's going to have to be other life changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to have to intentionally do those things. It's not just going to go away.
Right. But I think that's important to talk about. And when you're in it, talk about, look, this is a season. Can you have some, will you please have a little bit of grace on me? Because in 3 weeks, I'll be through this major project.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks, the kids are going to be out of school, and I'll have my brain back and can actually pay attention to when you're talking to me. Or, give me let me get through baseball season when I'm not in the car every single day, and then my load will lighten and I can reconnect if you can be patient to this date.
And we've said this on the podcast before. I think it's also important to grab the moments you do have.
Yes.
Because there's moments throughout the day where you can make a bit of connection to your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning I can offer connection to you that we doom scroll, or we spend 20 extra minutes in that little toilet room of our house doom scrolling. Or somewhere, when we could really just capture that moment, because it's those little, you think about it. If you're drowning, okay, so think about you're underwater. What would one sticking your head up above the water and catching one quick breath do for you if you get sucked back under? It'd be life, right?
Yeah.
That gives me another 30 seconds to gather my wits and try to be saved from drowning, right?
Yeah.
And so you think when you're drowning in stress or schedules or responsibilities, just a 15-minute connection with your spouse over a quick dinner or sitting in the car, when the kids get out at a sporting event, or even if you're not in the same place, a phone call.
Yeah.
And just talking on the phone for 15 minutes in connection. And just, and maybe end it, just pray with each other or just,
What would it do for your marriage, even if at the end of the day, when you're completely exhausted and all you want to do is sit there and doom scroll for 30 minutes? What if you traded that? You're tired. You want to unwind. You don't really feel like emotionally connecting.
Right.
But what if during that time you lay on the couch together,
lay your head in the lap and just cuddle.
And
Yes.
just even if you're lying on the couch together and doom scrolling the same thing together.
Yeah, watch funny reels together.
Even that is a connection point versus separation on the other side of the room, or you in the toilet room in the middle.
Yeah.
Seriously, even that little amount is a bid for connection, saying, I just want to be close to you right now. I don't have a lot to give, but it's better than being separated.
Cuddle on the couch and watch the same funny cat reels.
Yeah.
That right there. And it's equivalent to that little breath when you're drowning. It just feels like, okay, good, I can get through another day.
Yeah.
And we had some connection. And that's so important. And so it's those small intentional resets.
Yeah.
And those matter. And so, and some of those practical ideas, we just kind of gave you a couple there, but I think it's important to pray together or take a walk together. Say, okay, we got 15 minutes. Let's walk around the little cul-de-sac or our neighborhood or whatever, right? and we've talked about this on a previous podcast, I think maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, episodes ago, going to bed together at the same time, right? Laying in bed for 15 minutes before you doze off.
Yeah.
Just slowing down for a moment to reconnect. And then, like you said, Bonnie, putting an end date on it.
Yeah.
Okay, this project is over in 2 months.
Yeah. And there's some things you can't put an end
right.
date on. If you've got health issues, you don't know. I know we recently came through a season when your dad was ill, and we didn't know how long that was going to be. When your dad passed away, you can't always manage those on your timetable. You just have to say, okay, Lord, during this season, give me the strength I need to get through it.
Yep. I totally agree. So.
Well, if your marriage has been feeling emotionally exhausted lately, we just want you to know that you're not alone. A lot of couples are carrying heavy loads right now.
Yeah, we all are. And that's the great news. It's just because you feel depleted today, it doesn't mean that you can't reconnect tomorrow, right? If you can slowly drift apart, you can slowly drift back together. And sometimes the first step is just recognizing that your relationship needs intentional care again.
Yeah, and honestly, some of the healthiest things that you can do when you're in this place like this is just simple stuff like slow down, talk again, pray together, just make time, a little bit of time, any amount of time to be together.
Yeah. So thanks so much for spending time with us today on the podcast. And listen, if this episode encouraged you, make sure you subscribe. Hit that little bell if you're on YouTube. Share this podcast with another couple who may need it. And so we'll see you next time. We are all